Hey everybody, it's Eddie J on crypto for growmybag.tv. Hope you're having a good one. What's good? What's good? What's good? So what do we have going on today? We've got a lot. We've got an early morning meeting. I'm headed to the city. That's what that usually means. What we also have is Texas Bitcoin bill. I believe it's SB21 has made it to the next stage. That bill proposes a state level Bitcoin reserve, and it has passed their House with a 105 to 23 vote, which is interesting. So we'll see what happens with that. But I definitely think you should keep your eye on it. Also, what advanced? The Genius Act is now going to hit the main floor of the Senate for debate. That's actually huge. If you look at stable coins, algorithmic stable coins, if you look like USDT, if you look at large tech firms not being allowed to have stable coins, all those kinds of things, you start to realize, holy moly, there's a problem. Holy moly, there's a problem. Now, Strategy is a big tech firm, right? For them to be qualified to be able to do a stable coin, they'd have to change the business that they're in, as an example. So yeah, there's a lot going on with that Genius Act. You should really check it out and pay attention to it. Zimbabwe has launched a blockchain carbon credit market. The reason why that's a big deal is because we're slowly starting to see what we see are as smaller countries. I'm not going to say what world or anything like that because I think it's rude. But you start to see these smaller countries start to make huge advancements in all kinds of technology, like AI, blockchain, right? And you start to realize, holy moly, the world is starting to level off. You're starting to see, so all the countries that are up here, they're going to remain up here, and they'll, keep going up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. But all these other countries are on a different trajectory. So even though these countries are moving up, you still have those smaller countries that are on a different trajectory, and they are starting to level things off. Now, if you carry that forward, my thought is, from a monetary perspective, my thought is that could actually become a problem for countries outsourcing jobs to places like India, because those people are expecting more. I'm just saying. And, so because they're expecting more, because they have the education, they have the knowledge, they have the experience, they're going to demand more. I know I would, wouldn't you? So that savings is starting to diminish, which will wind up bringing things forward, such as the time difference, making it difficult to work with, just an outsourcing of knowledge. You have a lot of companies out there that are not seeing how they're outsourcing core knowledge to other countries. They're not seeing that. And they're not seeing that even though their leadership might be in one country, but the work is being done in another, who actually has the knowledge? That's a pretty scary thought. That's a huge risk that I would not want to undertake with my company. That's not something I would be interested in at all. At all. So I pay attention to stuff like that. You have the SEC charging unicorn executives of they charge three executives, including CEO Alex I'm just going to call him Alex K. I'm not going to butcher the man's name like that. That's rude. With fraud and allegedly raising over $100 million from investors through false statements violating federal securities laws. Whoa. Yeah, that's right. That's huge. That's not a little thing. So there's a lot of controversy surrounding Unicorn, and I'm hoping that none of you actually invested in it. But the reason why I bring this up is because you need to know who's involved with the project. And one of the questions that I always ask is this a real crypto project, or is it a business disguised as a crypto project? Or, last one, is it a project that should be a business, right? And that's what I start to contemplate. And if you do your research on some of these things, you start to realize, yeah, that person might be a little bit shady. So if you look at, I just brought it to you the other day, you have World Liberty Financial. One of those guys were involved in a project last year, and people got hit, with $2.5 million loss. And he didn't walk away from that project cleanly, it would seem. So there seems to be a lawsuit involved. Yeah, that could wind up being messy for the guy. That could wind up being messy. Something else in business that I thought was really interesting. Google unveils Android XR glasses with Gemini AI. Now, yeah, Eddie J on crypto. I get it. I talk a lot about crypto, but I talk a lot about business investment. And when I look at this advancement by Google, specifically going up against who? Meta. I look at that advancement, I kind of go, yeah, things are starting to heat up. What it also tells me is the world is changing. Imagine having these glasses on, walking down the street and immediately seeing ads for each one of the stores that you see. What specials they're running. Knowing your grocery list and knowing that you're getting ready to drive by a grocery store and telling you, hey, you might want to go do that. Yeah. I just saw an app last night that basically identified every single moving object. So you fly a drone and it's got a whole bunch of drones and stuff like that. And they can identify these objects and what it can be used for. So imagine what glasses can do as you're walking down the street taking pictures of everybody. You don't think that's what you're doing? You don't think that when you buy those kinds of glasses, that kind of technology, that you're not helping them build on that technology? Yeah. I think the greatest example of that experiment is Pokemon Go. Yeah. Pokemon Go was a map expedition. The players got to have fun, but they were also creating maps, accurate maps, as they use the game. So when I look at that kind of situation with Google, I'm sitting back and I'm going, that's an interesting development. It's interesting technology. How are we going to leverage this technology going forward? It's not just about what technology is out there. It's about how it's going to be leveraged. Look at AI and how many companies out there are trying to teach you how to use AI and all that other good stuff. It's awesome. It's awesome. But how are you going to use it? How are you going to implement it? Are you going to invest in it? My company has 3 nodes running around right now dedicated to AI. Doing everything from, content development to research to all kinds of things. And we've got redundant nodes. Why? Because we want our clients to keep their data safe and keep their data to themselves. That's the idea. So we can walk in the door, help you create a node and all that other good stuff, help offer you redundancy and keep your data to yourself and teach you how to leverage your data so that you can move forward and make advancements in your own business. But what people are not realizing is the same way that the internet changed how business is done, AI and blockchain, Web3, are also going to change how business is done. It's also going to change what business you're in, or could change what business you are in. That's a big deal. And people are not necessarily looking at it from that perspective. So I really do question, how much time people are dedicating themselves, especially business owners like myself, to how do we compute? How are we leveraging technology going forward? I do that exercise with my team at least once a month. Not once a month, at least once a month. Because we're seeing how we can leverage different things and why we would leverage different things in different ways. Oh, and I forgot to say something this morning. Don't forget to invest in yourself today. Don't forget to invest in yourself today. What else do we have going on? We've got Coinbase faces a biometric data lawsuit. Why? Because people in Illinois are accusing Coinbase of actually collecting and sharing biometric data without their permission. Illinois has a biodata law. Wow. They have a biometric data law. And I'm like, ooh, that could be bad. That's one thing less than Coinbase needs right now. They don't need that right now. Not with everything they have going on. They have other lawsuits that they're fighting. They had the data breach. They're trying to buy Circle because Ripple wants to buy Circle. They're biting off a lot. Grand rising to you too, Fatima. Here to invest in myself. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you very much. So that's a very big deal. And it's kind of scary to think about it. Now, the High Court of Australia has decided to hear a case, and it's a big deal because it's going to affect how blockchain technology is leveraged in that country. They do not make it a habit of taking up cases. It's sort of like the U.S. Supreme Court. For over there, it's even less, right? So them taking up a case that talks about block earner constituents, how people can actually earn money, it's going to be a big deal. So I'm paying attention to laws around the world that can affect large areas, large chunks of people, because the law there could become a law here. Lawmakers pay attention to what goes on in other countries, which means you should be paying attention to what goes on in other countries, because they analyze things to see, well, they're trying that over here, they're trying that over there. Is it going to work? Blah, blah, blah. They're leveraging that research. Don't think they're not. It's not necessarily to your best benefit either. So that's something else that you really want to pay attention to. Ripple's potential acquisition of Circle raises concerns. Legal experts warn that Ripple's rumored acquisition of Circle, it's not an acquisition yet. They're in talks, the same way that Circle is talking to Coinbase. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Could be a lead to market centralization and regulatory challenges, potentially impacting the broader crypto ecosystem. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think that's the issue. I think that somebody's thinking that, Ripple could get too big for themselves. Maybe not. But there are tons of stable coins out there, and banks are allowed to have stable coins, and those banks are coming out with their stable coins. So what's your problem? Competition is necessary. And I don't think I do not think Circle can stand on its own when a bank decides that they're going to have a stable coin. I do not think they'll be able to do that. And that's going to be a very big deal. You need independent stable coins. That's what you need, which is one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of the Genius Act, because it specifically targets Tether, which is why Tether's thinking about coming out with a new US compliant stablecoin. Now, that ought to be cute, but they're not going to move all of their network power from USDT over to this new stablecoin. It'll just be another low-ranking stablecoin within the US market. And the US market could suffer if it doesn't have USDT. Because what happens? Here's a scenario. I get money. USDT has the most pairs. I take my USDT, I take my money, I flip it on onto a centralized exchange or whatever I do, and I flip that to someplace else where I can flip into USDT so I can go buy whatever it is I want to buy. In other words, that money leaves the economy. That's not what you want. I think it's a stupid pet trick to look at something like USDT and say, we're not going to allow that. I think that's dumb. So I'm paying attention to the Genius Act because that's one of the things that it does. And that's probably something you want to pay attention to. It probably is. Then what do we have? We've got Mantra OM token surging after Upbit listing. Yeah, it got listed on Upbit, even though Mantra had a whole bunch of problems, and it shot up 17%. So is Mantra on the way back? I don't know. I still have my bag, and I don't know if it's ever going to get back to where it was. We'll see. We'll see if they recover. But that's a good move. That's actually a good move. Then you have Philippines plans, AI governance roadmap by 2028. The reason why I want to pay attention to that is because nobody's got guardrails for AI. Nobody has guardrails for AI. Let me break this down for you, how big of a deal that is. I just said that my company has 3 nodes, okay? We have 3 nodes and growing. We plan on growing more nodes across the world, which will enable companies, private companies, to keep their data and leverage our nodes to do work for themselves. So that would mean that it's easy to actually set up your own node, right? Nefarious characters, they're willing to take money and spend good money on a video card. So they have that GPU speed. Hook that up to a Linux machine, and now you can do just about anything. You can download an application called Laura, and Laura makes such realistic things. We ran a test last night, and I gave it a few names of stars, right? Very affluent people that are known to the world. And I just typed their name. What came back? Astounding. Astounding. Without tweaking anything or anything else, it was able to make a perfect likeness of every star we identified. Give us one of Amber Heard, give us one of Elon Musk, give us one. We just threw out names and we were analyzing. Now you can clearly see because we didn't tweak anything, you can clearly see that, okay, well, it looks like a real image, but it's not, it lacks that human thing, that good morning Hutanic. It lacks that human touch that makes you think, oh, that's a real image. Just, if your eye catches it, you can see it. But let me tell you something, with a little bit of tweaking, you can make it look dead real. And we tried it on one of our test nodes, which is not a huge video card. It's only got 12 gigs of RAM, VRAM on it. Imagine what AI technology can do in the hands of a normal individual. And there you go. I could have Amber Heard wearing a Grow My Bag t-shirt. Or I could have an actor that looks like Amber Heard wearing a Grow My Bag t-shirt. That's amazeballs. And right now, there are no guardrails anyplace around the world, except for the companies, the publicly traded companies, or the companies with big names that are trying to say, hey, we at least have some guardrails. You can't do that with our platform. But what's the big deal? I don't need your platform. I don't need OpenAI. I don't need to pay OpenAI to go download my own large language model to do this stuff. The world is changing, and we need to figure out how it's going to change, and we need to stay in control while we still can. AI plus automation plus blockchain can mean really, really, really good stuff. Advancements in robotics can mean really good things for the world. But what comes with good is bad, and we need to be mindful of it. And we should be looking, as you look across your investments, you should be looking at that grand scheme, not just what you're investing in, but what the overall impact is going to be. At the point that these GPUs run ASIC virtual machines, dude, you don't even have to go that far. You're going too deep. I know somebody has has a card that only has 4 gigabytes of VRAM. ASIC chip, it's about this big. There's another box coming out. There's technology coming out, small individualized boxes that people are like, oh, I could use that for gaming. My son has a 3060 card in his bedroom. We built that 2 years ago. That's the perfect machine for what? For that, for AI, for blockchain. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that we need to pay attention to, and it's cheap. You can buy a really decent 12 gig AI card for less than $300, or give or take $300, right? You could buy a tiny little Nook computer for the same price. Load up Linux like Ubuntu, boom, you're off to the races. It takes nothing to set up and install. I set up Stable Diffusion myself last night because one of my other guys set up Stable Diffusion. Now listen to this. He set up Stable Diffusion. Took him 10 minutes. He's a true technologist. Works on my team. Steven. He's awesome. Beyond awesome. And so he sets it up. It took him 5 minutes. Right? Took him 5 minutes to set it up. It took me a minute to set it up. Why? Because he sent me the text file. It's like 25 lines of text, a JSON file. Gave it to me, and boom, and now I have it too. 2 test nodes that have failover on each other can now do this stuff like that. So I'm saying, be mindful of what you're investing in and what it means and what it can do. And this is why guardrails are a very big deal. This is why I pay attention to laws that are being considered around the world. 2028 might be too late. 2028 might be too late for that. I'm just saying, people need to pay attention. So I understand where they're coming from, but that's not good enough. Here's an example. Shiba Inu executive issues scam warning as Shiba Inu executive Lucy alerted the community about increasing scam activities leveraging deep fakes. I want you to hear something. So I did an image of Amber Heard. Came out, looks almost perfect, right? I can then drop that into another AI engine and have that animated to say whatever it is I want her to say. Want to get really funky? I can take voice samples of hers and use that voice. I'd get sued at some point, right? But here's what we're missing. How many times do you listen to a commercial and it sounds like a stupid commercial and it sounds like, somebody that's famous but not so famous but famous. It sounds like their voice, but it's not. That wasn't AI, that was another actor that sounds like them. Now imagine, I create an AI that sounds close to, but is not that person. I don't need their likeness necessarily. I could just use their voice or something like their voice. There are a lot of things that you can do, which is why we need guardrails, which is why I'm being careful about who I invest in, which is why I care about who's involved with what project. You see how that do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. It's a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal. Now, something else that Jamie Dimon said yesterday is that people are not really paying enough attention to the impacts of the tariffs. I agree. People are not paying enough attention to the actual impacts of the tariffs as they stand right now. You know that it's me right now, Hutanic, because if you get on my nerves, I'm going to stick you in the corner. I also know other things about you, sir, that I can say, but I won't say it because it'll make me hungry. And I don't have time to fly out to your house and pick up some food. Just saying. So that's how you know that. Like, you want to hear something that's funny? So my brother used to be in the military. He's retired. He still works for the government, but he's retired from the actual military. And he used to travel overseas a lot, like be everywhere. When you heard about bombs going off in Iraq in certain areas, that was my brother. And we had a thing that we would do. Tell me something that only you would know. Sometimes they'd be embarrassing things. Sometimes they'd be funny things. But it would be things that only he and I would know. And it had to be different from the last thing that we said. So imagine, it sounds funny. The game that we played when we were younger is now a real deal thing. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Wow, I didn't have that up this whole time. That's embarrassing. So, all right, let me get my notes out of the way because what should we do? That's right. Hit the numbers. Right now we have the market falling. Futures for the Dow is at negative 314. S&P looks down 4350. NASDAQ looks down 171. Wow. Just saying. And that could all be good news for crypto. But we'll see what happens. Earnings, who's coming out, get TJX, Lowe's. I'll probably be paying attention to that. Snowflake, Target, Baidu is another one I'd be paying attention to. So yeah, we have some good ones coming out, supposedly coming out today. Today's Wednesday. We only have Fed Speak. Not a problem. I do like to listen to Fed Speak. And what happened here? Oh, that's a no bueno. We'll see if it pops up. That's usually default. That's usually our fear and greed index. There you go. It's still at 7. It's at 70, down from 71. Not bad. Still in a good place. DeFi Llama. We don't have time to go through everything because obviously I have to leave in a couple of minutes. But yeah, not looking too bad. We're still hasn't changed since yesterday. $125.671 billion in total value locked. Not bad. Bitcoin is currently moving, a little bit to the downside. You can see the red right there, right? Not bad, not horrible. I'm not going to cry about it. It's at 106.319, still playing around that 106 area. But you see how I said we're stair stepping. We are stair stepping. We took a long time to stair step over here, a really long time, right? To get back up. And we started, that was the first step. Then we came up, second step. Then we came up, third step. Are we going up again? Are we going up again? Could be. We're not that far away from that all-time high. You see how we keep inching higher? You see how we keep inching higher? Look at that line right there. Right there. Right there. High 107s. That's not a small thing. So yeah, I'm paying attention to this. Why? Because we could be having a really good week. And we absolutely should be paying attention. Looking at the big board, I still see opportunities. People ask me all the time, Eddie, what opportunities do you see? I start with the big ones. I think SUI is a big opportunity. Link is a big opportunity. Shiba Inu, I think, is a big opportunity. Aave is definitely a big opportunity. ETH, BNB, Sol, ADA, of course, ADA, XLM, BCH, don't sleep on it, BTC. So yeah, we have a lot of things depending on what you want to, depending on how your bag is being managed right now. You can actually see a lot of opportunity right here. The first time this cycle, it is looking good. I don't know. I thought it was looking good a few times. Before tariff talk. Just saying, before tariff talk, we started looking good. We're behind. I mean, actually, right now, we're ahead, right? From before tariff talk, we're a little bit lower. But now after tariff talk, because before tariff talk, I think we were at 103. So we're a little bit higher than where we were. But we lost all that time. And I'm really beginning to think that was by design. Why? Because we have ETFs that could have been approved, should have been approved, or not approved, because they're pushing everything to the last half of the year. Because you'll be going into an election year and they want a good economy going into that election year. But the tax bill that's coming forward, this is one of the reasons why Moody's downgraded the United States, is because the tax bill that's coming along does not address the $37 trillion in debt. It goes in the opposite direction. It says, we're going to give certain people tax cuts. And Moody's is like, yeah, that's not smart. It's not smart at all. Not smart at all. So I pay attention to that, right? Anyway, everybody, this is Eddie J on crypto for growmybag.tv. Hope you enjoy what I'm doing. If you do me a favor, smash the likes. Definitely tell your friends about this community because it's a different kind of community. And I think we proved that last night. If you didn't catch last night's show, you should. You really, really should. All right. This is Eddie J on crypto for growmybag.tv. Thank you so much for your time, your patience, and of course, your trust. I do not take that for granted. 2024 was too hot, front running VC money. 2024. Yep. Actually, Ethereum's catching up, dude. Ethereum's catching up. Here's something that I want to point out to everybody. Everybody looks at Ethereum right now as not doing too well, but Hutanik just pointed out something that's very important. It was hot before. Ethereum was here and Bitcoin was here in terms of growth. And now they switch places. I'm just saying. Just saying. Pay attention to things. Anyway, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. And I will be back tonight on the Crypto Overflow. Everybody, have a good one. Bye-bye.